And so he was the new sheriff in town. Like his father, before him he was unique, and he would bring the new, younger generation into power with their own mantra, which would be the Gumbo Coalition. And as his point man, he would choose Marlin Guzman, not because he wanted to hear a yes to everything he had to say, but because he knew Marlin would tell him no when it was appropriate. And here now to talk about the Morial administration and the Morial cabinet, Sheriff Marlin Guzman.
That might have been where I got that idea about running for sheriff, Mark. Well, good evening, everyone. The Life Gumbo Coalition, and I will be forever a part of the Gumbo Coalition that brought great change and real meaning to my public service and to the city of New Orleans. Mark and the Morial family, I'm so honored that you asked me to speak tonight. I remember the times we shared at City Hall, and 2012 marks the 40th year of our association. I first really bonded with Mark in high school. You remember all of that. Well, in that time, I've learned many life lessons from both Dutch Morial and Marc Morial, two great leaders of our city and two of my great teachers in life. Their influence on me led me to the public service that I am in now. And among the many lessons that I learned from you, Mark, were the value of inclusiveness. Don't leave anybody out. Make sure everybody's involved. The need for endurance when we were working through some pretty tough issues. And, this is my favorite one, the effectiveness of efficiency when you multitask. Now, anyone who knows Mark, and the video said it, about his trademark characteristic of inclusiveness. He has a wonderful gift for drawing people to him, charismatic, open, friendly. Mark wants to include everybody in anything that he does. Everyone he meets is a friend and a supporter. Now, as an example, in this very building, during Mardi Gras, being admitted to this building to watch the parades is a pretty big deal. You know, the council members get tickets, and the mayor gets tickets, and some members of the administration gets tickets, and after the tickets are, they're gone. Well, Mark still had some friends and supporters that needed tickets, and they wanted to see the parades from Gallery Hall. And that was when this all access passes that he created in his office came into existence. So I said, well, what are these? And he said, well, these are all access, Another characteristic of Mark's leadership style is his endurance. He would literally have us working till the wee hours of the morning, never giving up in his quest to improve the city. And we worked on a number of policy issues that were really important, really controversial, some that really changed the city. I remember working on the juvenile curfew law and all of the details that went into it, or staying up late with Chief Pennington working on police reform, the rebuilding of NORD. And he was a relentless worker and wouldn't mind calling you at 7:00 p.m. For a meeting later that night. And I remember early in the administration, and I might have been working there a week, and he called me down to a meeting in his office. It was about 5:30 p.m. And after we had met for a couple of hours, he said, "Look, any of you all hungry?" And I said, "Look, I have my dinner at home, I'm okay." I said, "No thanks." It was either Tap or Larry. He sent him out to get some food, and he ate it during the meeting. Well, when it was getting close to 11 p.m., I made a little note to self. Next time he offers, take him up on it. Another example of his leadership was his efficiency and his ability to multitask. He could have 4 or 5 public events at the same time on his schedule, and then have another 4 or 5 at another time on the same day. And he would, as part of his efficiency, he would assign one or more of us in the administration to advance him and to keep him posted on when he would arrive. Because everybody wanted to see him, wanted to talk to him, and hear from the mayor, and he usually didn't disappoint. But we would get that occasional call that would say, "Look, I can't make it, you represent me." And then we'd have to come up with speaking remarks like on the spot. But most importantly, he instilled in everyone that worked with him the value of teamwork. And he brought together a team of talented, professional, energetic, and diverse group of young people in his administration to create this renaissance of a great American city. And I'd like for all of the members of his administration, members of his cabinet, to stand and be recognized. And Mark, I know you're representing our city very, very well as president of the National Urban League, and you relocated to New Jersey, but I know you still love New Orleans. Thank you. And Mark, I'd like you to join me up here to present you with this Gumbo Coalition Wild Game Dinner. Original painting by J. Renee.
Thank you, Sheriff Guzman. Did the Gumbo Coalition have coattails? I think so. Another one of the shining stars of the Gumbo Coalition is here tonight to talk about the 90s elected officials and those officials who were elevated to other roles and judges of the Gumbo Coalition, the Honorable Terry Fleming Love.
Well, first giving my honor and obedience to God, because it's of His grace that we're here today. And to all the other ministers of the gospel here, and to everyone else, I greet you. It's really an honor to be here to speak. And as I thought about my remarks, I thought about, first of all, a little personal story that I want to cover. And that is, when we first went into City Hall, I had the privilege of working with the mayor and some other people on drafting the city's first domestic violence ordinance. I don't know if many people know that prior to that, we didn't have an ordinance. You were prosecuted under assault and battery. And that was really something that needed to be taken care of. And the mayor gave me the ability to work on that. And I was truly honored. And I think that is something that we all should give the mayor a hand, because that is an important issue. Secondly, as I thought about reunion, being a good Baptist, we always check the definition. And you know, reunion means you bring back together people who've been separated. And I thought about it with the Gumbo Coalition. Yeah, we've been separated by miles and time, but we're all connected. Because anybody who was a part of that coalition was committed to working hard, doing public service, and doing something to make people proud of you. I can remember so many times my good friend Connie Thomas, the late Connie Thomas, calling me and saying, Mark said. We all know. Julie called me this week, Mark said. It's a constant thing, but we all were connected to one goal, and that was to do a good job. And as far as it relates to the judiciary, you know, he really was committed to diversity. And I know so many of us, when we think about diversity, we think about gender and race. But he was committed to diversity in the judiciary for so many other purposes. He looked at people from different educational backgrounds, people from uptown, downtown, people from out of town like me were given an opportunity. And I think everyone knows the judiciary is the most independent branch of government. And for the judiciary to be effective, it must be diverse. And I think his contribution in the 90s to the judiciary cannot be overstated. And I think we should give him a big hand for that. And at that point, I'd like to recognize all the elected officials from the 90s, with a special look out to those who were elected to the judiciary. I can't see everyone, so I would just ask if you would stand and wave your hand. And I don't know if she's here, but we also I have to give special recognition to our future leader. She was elevated during that time, and that's our next Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court, Justice Burnett Joshua Johnson, if she's here. And I'd like to conclude with a remark by Thurgood Marshall that really has stayed with me, and it really says it all. Those who refuse to place limitations on themselves will always succeed. And the Gumbo Coalition, we had no limitations, so we truly succeeded.
Thank you, Judge Love. As you know, there is no environment or arena that Marc Morial does not find himself comfortable in. He is most comfortable on the national stage, and as such is respected by his peers, both locally and nationally. And here to speak toward that end is our special guest, J. Thomas Cochran, President and Executive Director of the United States Conference of Mayors.
Well, I'm probably the only one that's going to speak tonight that's not from New Orleans. And yet I am. About 3 weeks ago, you know, you don't get invitations. They always come after you get to the event. About 3 weeks ago, one Sunday night, I looked at my BlackBerry, and there was an email from Marc Morial. He said, we're celebrating Dutch, we're celebrating the Gumbo Coalition, we're celebrating New Orleans, can you please come? Within 30 seconds, I said I will be there. And everybody's got a schedule. You may wonder why I said it so quickly. Let me explain to you what New Orleans has given my organization. 80 years old, formed in 1932, we are the voice, we are the action for cities in America. In 1932, Mayor Walmsley, that was before the day, before the struggle, but he felt like he had to do something about what was happening in urban America. And he went with 16 other mayors to Detroit City and formed the United States Conference of Mayors. That was the first thing you did for me, help me form the organization. Secondly, there was a time in the 70s when we thought the urban policy was gone. And out of the South came Moon Landrieu, who went with a band of brothers and sisters throughout the nation, fighting for general revenue sharing and the community development block grant program that we have today. And when New York City was going under, Moon Landrieu said, it's not going to happen on my watch. And so we appreciate his leadership and what he did at HUD. And then came Dutch Morial. Some people said he was arrogant. But I'm a Baptist. And there's 4 Gospels. And John 2:15 tells you about what Jesus did when he went into the temple. When they were robbing us, Jesus took a whip and drove them out. So here comes Dutch Morial. He served president 2 years because Hernan Padilla, the mayor of San Juan, had to run for governor. So the first Reagan budget came out, and we got hit. The second Reagan budget came out, and we were going to be annihilated. So he says, I want you to get every interest group in the United States together. So I got him on an open mic. Had, the NAACP, had all of them there, Mark. The Urban League and the teachers, the preachers, and all the nice people and all the tough people. And I said, well, Mr. President, what's happening? And I will not use the word that he used, but I would say it went something like this. He says, Tom, we're getting screwed with our clothes on and it don't feel good. But anyway, he said, so what we did, there was $23 billion at stake. And what we did is we organized every mayor, every police chief, every fireman, and they came. We had a federal budget day. I went down to some bars, a woman named Nixon. She could sing like a nightingale. I pulled out a check, gave her $150. I said, can you sing the Star Spangled Banner? So she showed up. We had an incredible rally, and he would not let Reagan take us out on the urban policy. It was Little David and Goliath. So we will never forget his leadership and how strong he was. And then God had Moon and all his children. Then we have Dutch, and now here comes Marc. When Marc came in, the nation was coming back. For the first time, the census showed that people were coming back into the cities, and we were going to be competitive with Germany and with Japan. And so on September the 11th, Marc and I were at the Willard Hotel talking to David Broder, a great reporter, about where we were going. I had rented the Kodak Theater out. We were ready to go on a tour to talk about cities are coming back. And someone came in our someone came in my room, in this private room, and they bothered me. I think it was Rhonda or somebody, and she said, a plane just hit the tower in New York City. This was a terrible time for us, for cities all over America. We didn't know exactly who to turn to. And there was one person that we turned to, and his name was Marc Morial. And he called together, within 4 weeks, the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, and the paramedicals. And within 24 hours after they hit the towers, Mark went on national television and says that the airport security has got to be federalized. He said within 2 days after they hit the tower, and we've done it. So every time they're giving you hell at the airport, but I'll take it before you get blown up with somebody's underwear, if you know what I mean. So, but seriously, it was a time for leadership, and we did everything we could to support New York City. We will never be the same after that day. And we took the winter meeting, you remember, to New York City to be with Mayor Bloomberg and Mayor Giuliani. So, you know, New Orleans is so great, but if you look at the history of this nation, we could have gone this way or that way. You know, it's because of those presidents from this organization, Walmsley, Landrieu, Morial, and Morial. And now we got another one coming, Mitch, you know? And you know, we were supposed to talk about the father and son thing, but hell, y'all have got it down here, I get mixed up. I'm just surprised some of the Landrieux hadn't married one of them Morials or something. Okay. So, but we do celebrate the fathers and the sons. And we give a shout out to Chicago for Mayor Daley and Rich. And we appreciate so much our Senator Mary and all of you who do so much for our nation. And Sybil, you know, every time I see you, I say, God, I just want to be as active as she is. You're absolutely a marvel and inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you.